Okay, we're ready for you whenever you want to get started.
Good morning today, class. My name is Jarquez. Schmidt.
Maddie.
Today we researched Apple and customer privacy.
So we'll be talking about the challenge with Apple's data privacy first, and then we'll talk about the solution. We'll go on to the time frame of Apple's data, the data breaches, who was infected.
What happened?
We are unsure.
Okay, no worries. Please hold.
Okay.
So things happen like this, maybe we just switched gears. Maybe close the browser. We'll log back in. Now, what happens in the real world?
I know.
All right, question. So this is a good learning experience. What happens in the real world when things like this happen, and often they do?
Adapt and overcome.
Say again?
Adapt and overcome.
Okay, so what are some strategies to adapt and overcome? You've handed out a handout, right?
Yeah.
Here, while I get this up, why don't you go walk people through that? Use that time and just beg people's indulgence. Sorry about that. We'll be up and running in no time, right?
So the handout I made for you guys, it talks about why Apple's products are protecting your privacy and how they are. So we can just go through this. The first one is only you can access your device. So with the new iPhones, you have the Touch ID and the face recognition ID, and we'll talk about it.
If you want to start from the top, if it's easier, otherwise just keep going. It's up to you.
Okay.
Start from the beginning.
Start from the beginning. I'm just gonna keep going now. And then we'll talk about the positive and negative effects of Apple's news headlines and the stock prices. And then we'll talk about our opinion, and then we'll have a Q&A. So this was a quote from the CEO, Tim Cook of Apple. He states, "We see vividly how technology can harm rather than help. Platforms and algorithms that promise to improve our lives can actually magnify our worst human tendencies." So he recognizes that this is a problem, so that's why they're setting forth a solution. So first, Apple isn't faced with necessarily a challenge or a scandal yet, but they are trying to prevent this from happening. But Facebook and Google have both had consumer data privacy that has gone negative, and we all know about the Cambridge Analytica election in 2008 with Facebook, and then how they got data privacy without consumers' consent. And then for Google, they were exposed to private data of hundreds of thousands of users with the Google Plus social network, and they didn't take accountability for it because they didn't want anyone in the industry to take have reputation damage. So, but then 6 months later, they got in trouble for it, and now they're faced with data privacy issues.
So this is our timeline, and data privacy has really become big in the past 5 years. But one of the important things to note is it actually kind of started in 2012 and 2013 for Apple, especially when they released iOS 5 and iOS 6, which is the update systems for their products, and it gave Facebook and Twitter more access to customers and users' data. So that was kind of one of the first things that Apple kind of had to face. And then in March 2016, the FBI actually ordered Apple to release information from a phone used in the San Bernardino shooting. But Apple refused, and this was really significant because it was when Apple took a stand and said that our consumers' data is important to protect, and as a company we are going to protect it. In November 2017, Apple released iOS 11, and that improved the faults that were installed in iOS 5 and 6, and helped to protect the data. In March 2018, Facebook and Cambridge Analytica's data scandal was exposed, which is the huge scandal that was affected political elections. And on May 25th, 2018, the GDPR, which is the General Data Protection Regulation, was implemented in the EU, and this helped to protect all individuals in the EU, and made it so that your like regular settings on products and services is at like the highest level of protection, not something that you have to go in and personally change. And then September 14th to 27th in 2018, that's the estimated time frame of another Facebook data breach, and this one allowed attackers to obtain information of profiles and inner workings of like Facebook's system. And then October 8th, 2018 is when Google officially recognized that for the past 6 months that their Google Plus users have been at risk due to a bug in the system. And then October 24th, 2018, Tim Cook, he's the Apple CEO, he spoke at the International Conference of Data Protection and Privacy in Brussels on the value of consumer privacy and kind of Apple's role in it. It's also important to note that this is still very much ongoing, and actually on November 27th, Mark Zuckerberg, the CEO of Facebook, has to appear in Parliament or has been asked to appear in Parliament for the UK and Canada to discuss a lot of these data breaches and a lot of the issues that Facebook is having. So Apple is really trying to stay ahead of the game with it.
So Apple has tried to make a point of being different from other like Facebook and Google industries, and so on the handout I gave you, these are just some ways they are protecting your privacy, and it's been working for them. So first, only you can access your device, and that deals with the new iPhone with the touch screen, the Touch ID and the Face ID recognition. Your personal data belongs to you, not others, and so Apple doesn't gather your personal information to sell to advertisers or other organizations. Your Apple Pay transactions are safe, so neither Apple nor your device shares actual credit card numbers with merchants. And your features improve while your data stays private. And this deals with Apple sees general patterns rather than specifics that could track back to you. And on this other social media, this page will pop up. It's an icon that appears when an Apple feature asks to use your personal information. And so it just goes along with saying if you want to confirm it, you don't have to confirm it. But it's just one way they try to keep the data privacy safe for their consumers.
Organizations that was affected was business, medical, and healthcare between 2014 and 2018. Organizations was not that much affected in 2018.
So in general, the biggest areas that are like geographically affected are first world large economic powerhouses. So the United States, Europe, China are really affected, and China has been a new kind of area for Apple because they are a communist country, and a lot of the time the consumers don't have the rights to their own privacy. So it's kind of taking a different look, and governments have the rights to their privacy. So for Apple, that has like been a place where they're having to figure out how to balance both. As for the United States and Europe, they're still very focused on the consumer's privacy, and that's whose privacy is being protected. Additionally, the people that are affected, so individuals, obviously, they're the consumers. Those are the people who are being protected, and it's kind of the basis of everything that Apple is protecting. Companies involved, Facebook, Google, Yahoo, like everyone we've talked about. And then also the governments are a big point for the data encryption, because in the US and the UE, they're the people that control the regulations. So in the US, the SEC has been cracking down in the past year. So they actually, in April, fined Yahoo $35 million because they failed to disclose a 2-year-long breach. So that is kind of important that they're actually cracking down because they're finding that this is a very important policy. And then in the UK and EU, the governments are having conversations with these CEOs and working to like make sure that everything is stronger and that the consumer's privacy is protected.
Apple boss states aim at weaponization of customers' data. Apple privacy may not be as private as you think. Tom Cook says Head Start slides is real.
This is surveillance. Apple boss takes aim at weaponization of customer data. And Apple's CEO Tim Cook, privacy is to us a human right, a civil liberty. These are positive and negative headlines about what's going on with Apple.
Alright, so we're going to be looking at like a 3-month analysis of both, or all Facebook, Google, and Apple. First up is Facebook, and as you can see, it's kind of been like on a downward trend just in the past 3 months. But even prior to that, like within the past year, it's just been going down with like the Cambridge Analytica and the election. Mark Zuckerberg being brought in on March to talk about in front of like the U.S. Parliament about things that didn't hurt their stock. And also as recent as September with like the data breaches that Maddie mentioned from the 14th to the 27th. As you can see on September 25th is when they officially kind of released to the public that they've been having issues with data breaches. Their stock kind of dropped immediately, and since that point hasn't really rebounded. And also to note, on October 24th is the day that the Brussels workshop took place, where Tim Cook gave a speech. Mark Zuckerberg was there as well to answer questions following Tim Cook's speech. And as you can see at that point, on October 24th, if it just stopped, the analysis stopped there, that would be their lowest point pretty much on the year, pretty much. And in the following, Facebook's been having also issues as well, and went down even more. But recently, it's, I guess, starting to rebound a little bit. Google, kind of a similar trend. It's not as severe as Facebook as within the last year, but more within the last 3 months, and especially this last month with the Google Plus scandal coming out. And as you can see on October 8th, when that was brought about, a significant drop-off happened there. And again, October 24th, 2018, if you froze that moment there, that's the lowest point pretty much within the 3 months, if nothing else happened afterwards. And it only really drops after that because of like the Google walkouts and everything that happened with sexual harassment. And that's kind of been the reasoning afterwards why their stock kind of continued to fall off as well, which is somewhat irrelevant to what we were looking at. And lastly, with Apple, they've been kind of fairly neutral. They haven't really had trouble with any data breaches in the last year or any time really. It's been somewhat on an upward trend in the beginning. It's kind of leveled off, and I accredit this somewhat to their stance on data and user data and protecting users, because I think a lot of people value that, and I think Facebook and Google, they can maybe learn from what Apple is doing and get on the track of data privacy and adopt those rules in their company, and they might see a spike in their stock as well going forward.
So in our opinion, we believe Apple's doing well with data privacy, implementing systems like iOS 7 that make it harder for companies to come in and take your data, and passcodes, and making it so your information is yours and not the world's. And I think we think it shows how they know how to handle this situation properly. We also think that Google and Facebook's data usage is unethical. They're sharing information that you might not necessarily want people to know, or you might want them to know, but you didn't have anything say that you give permission to give it. And in the future, we do think that there should be more enforced regulation, because this is a problem, especially if companies can just come in off of your social media and take information about you that you didn't think they could take.
Any questions?
Sure, we'll take the 4 questions that you've been assigned, so whoever wants to start.
Why should we be concerned about this issue?
So we can be hacked from this, so I think it's important for like all consumers to know about this issue in case it happens. And I don't really see Apple having this issue anytime soon, really, because they're so like organized and planned with their solutions. So if it is an issue, like we can be hacked, so we should be concerned about it.
Can we as users be doing anything to limit the amount of personal data that is exposed?
So one of the big things we talked about is your privacy settings, just in general. Kind of following kind of after what the EU did and implementing that like they need to be on the highest settings is really important. Also, multiple and different passwords. So that's one of the things Apple has actually implemented with the passcode, and then your finger, like the Touch ID, and then Face ID. Like there's 3 different options there. So that's helping to make it so that the products are more secure, but also using different passwords for different things, so you're not hacked with the same password. And then also just being aware of like information that's posted on the internet, because what is posted out there is becoming public knowledge, because companies like Facebook and Google are being hacked. So
how much involvement should the government have in how safe the user data?
So currently the US government, there's laws in place that are pretty much state laws. A lot of the data privacy runs through the state. Companies need to go and get state approval in order to have access to most of your data and everything. As far as federally what the US government is doing, it's been a trend going forward, and they're on a track to kind of start adopting things like GDPR that the EU has in place right now. So in the future, I think that data privacy is going to be heading in that direction, and that the US is looking for stronger regulations for the consumer, and for the consumer in these things, and less going to be tailoring their laws and everything to businesses.
What info do companies have access to? Is it the same across all industries?
So it is not the same across all industries, and it's really not the same across companies. Each company has different rules and regulations about it. But access to information generally is for products that they provide. So if companies provide you with a phone or provide you with a computer, like that is part of their data, so they would technically have access to those products. But those are also normally very basic information, so not like your financial records or your medical records, more just your name, your number, kind of thing.
Did we get all 4 questions? Great, thank you so much. All righty then.